2 months ago, I stood in a grocery store staring at my receipt. $250 gone, just like that. And for what? Snacks, drinks, random things I didn't really need. It hit me. I wasn't in control of my money. My money was controlling me. Like most people, I thought I was pretty good with spending. I had a budget, kind of, tried to save sometimes, and avoided big luxuries. But somehow, my bank balance never seemed to grow. I started wondering, what would happen if I completely changed the way I spent money? That's when I decided to do a 60-day frugal living experiment. Not extreme couponing or living with no electricity, just smart, intentional choices. My goal was simple: cut out wasteful spending, live on less, and see what happens. At first, I worried I'd feel deprived or bored. Instead, I discovered something shocking. Frugality isn't about restriction, it's about freedom. Over the next 60 days, I saved more money than I thought possible, found joy in the simplest things, and completely changed how I think about spending. This is the story of how frugal living changed my life, and how it might change yours too. Number 1. Myths about frugality that I believed. Before I started this experiment, I had a lot of wrong ideas about frugal living. I thought it meant giving up everything fun, living on cheap instant noodles, and wearing clothes with holes just to save a few dollars. To me, frugality sounded like punishment, something only people in deep financial trouble had to do. I also believed that being frugal meant being cheap. I imagined people arguing over a few cents, refusing to tip at restaurants, or always buying the lowest quality items just to save money. I didn't want to be that kind of person, but I soon realized I was completely wrong. Frugality isn't about refusing to spend, it's about spending smarter. It's about choosing what truly adds value to your life and cutting out the rest. Another thing I believed was that frugality meant suffering. I thought I'd be missing out on good food, social events, and anything enjoyable. But the truth is, I didn't feel deprived at all. In fact, I felt more in control than ever. Instead of spending money without thinking, I started making choices that actually made me happier. This experiment wasn't about living with less, it was about living better. Number 2. The rules of my frugality experiment. When I started my 60-day frugality experiment, I knew I needed some clear rules. Without them, it would be too easy to cheat or make excuses. But I didn't want to make life miserable. I just wanted to spend less and live more intentionally. So, I set a few simple but powerful guidelines for myself. First, I decided to cut out all unnecessary spending. That meant no random online shopping, no eating out just because I was too lazy to cook, and no buying things simply because they were on sale. Every dollar had to have a purpose. If it wasn't essential or didn't bring real value to my life, I wasn't spending money on it. Instead of cutting things completely, I looked for low-cost or free alternatives. Instead of paying for entertainment, I explored free events, borrowed books instead of buying them, and found new ways to have fun without spending a fortune. I also made a rule to track every single dollar that came in and out. Writing down every expense made me painfully aware of where my money was actually going. Most importantly, I focused on spending money where it truly mattered, on things that made my life better, not just busier. Number 3. The first 2 weeks, the shock of spending awareness. The first 2 weeks of my frugality experiment were eye-opening. At first, I thought cutting back on spending would be easy. I told myself, I don't waste that much money anyway. But as soon as I started tracking every dollar, I realized how wrong I was. The biggest shock came when I added up my small, everyday expenses. Coffee on the way to work? That was at least $50 a month. A few quick takeout meals when I didn't feel like cooking? Another $100 gone. Random online purchases that seemed harmless? Easily over $200. None of these felt like big spending moments, but together, they were draining my money faster than I ever realized. I also started noticing how much I spent just because I was bored or stressed. If I had a long day, I'd treat myself to food delivery. If I was scrolling online, I'd buy something just because it was on sale. It was a habit, not a need. By the end of the first 2 weeks, I felt a mix of regret and excitement. Regret for all the money I had wasted before, but excitement because now I was in control. Number 4. Unexpected ways I found hidden money. One of the biggest surprises during my frugality experiment was discovering how much money was already around me. I just wasn't paying attention to it. At first, I thought saving money only meant spending less. But soon I realized I could also find extra money in unexpected places. The first thing I did was go through my home and look for things I no longer used. Old clothes, gadgets, furniture, even small things like books and kitchen tools. I listed them online and sold them. In just a few weeks, I made over $500 from stuff that had been sitting around collecting dust. It felt like free money. Then I looked at my bills and realized I was overpaying on a lot of things. I called my internet provider and got a lower rate just by asking. I checked my subscriptions and canceled the ones I didn't really use. Even small changes like turning off unused lights, using less water, and cooking in bulk saved me money every month. I also started using cashback apps and reward programs properly. Before, I ignored them. Now, I was earning small amounts back on things I had to buy anyway. Money was everywhere. I just had to notice it. Number 5. How frugality changed my social life. At first, I was worried that living frugally would make my social life boring. I had always spent money on eating out, grabbing drinks, or going to events with friends. Would people think I was being cheap? Would I miss out? The first few weeks were tough. I had to say no to expensive dinner plans and last-minute shopping trips. Some friends didn't understand. They'd say, "Come on, it's just one night out." But I stuck to my plan. Instead of avoiding social time, I started suggesting free or low-cost alternatives, picnic lunches, game nights, movie nights at home, and outdoor activities. To my surprise, many of my friends actually enjoyed these more than overpriced meals. I also learned an interesting truth. Most social activities are built around spending money. But the real value of friendship isn't in what you buy, it's in the time you spend together. Some friends stopped inviting me out as much, but others became closer. The people who truly value my company didn't care if we were spending money or not. By the end of the experiment, I realized I didn't need to spend a lot to have fun. I just needed good people around me. Number 6. The psychological shifts. What no one tells you about frugality. Before this experiment, I thought frugality was just about money. But after 60 days, I realized it changed my mind even more than my bank account. The biggest lesson? Frugality isn't about restriction. It's about freedom. At first, I felt the urge to buy things out of habit. I'd see a sale and think, I should get this, it's a good deal. But then I'd stop and ask myself, do I actually need this? That simple question changed everything. I started buying with intention, not impulse. I also discovered the power of delayed gratification. Instead of giving in to every small desire, I learned to wait. The crazy part? Most of the time, I forgot about the thing I wanted after a few days. It made me realize how much of my past spending was emotional, not necessary. Another unexpected shift was the dopamine rush of saving money. I used to feel excitement from buying something new. Now, I felt the same thrill from seeing my savings grow. By the end of 60 days, I wasn't just spending less, I was thinking differently. Frugality didn't feel like a sacrifice. It felt like taking control of my life. Number 7. How it affected my finances. The tangible results. After 60 days of frugal living, I finally looked at my numbers, and the results shocked me. I had saved over $1,500 without feeling like I was missing out on life. The craziest part? Most of that money had been slipping through my fingers before, without me even realizing it. The first big change was in my monthly spending. Cutting out unnecessary purchases, eating at home, and canceling unused subscriptions lowered my expenses by almost 30%. I wasn't struggling or suffering, I was just making smarter choices. With the money I saved, I started doing things I had always wanted to but never had enough money for. I put extra cash into my emergency fund, paid off a chunk of debt, and even started investing. Before this experiment, saving money had felt impossible. Now, I saw that I had more control over my finances than I ever thought. But the best part wasn't just having extra money, it was knowing exactly where my money was going. Instead of feeling stressed and unsure about my finances, I felt calm, in control, and excited about the future. This wasn't just a 60-day challenge. It was a total reset of how I lived. Will I live this way forever? Not exactly. But now I'll do it with intention. Instead of mindless spending, I'll focus on spending on what truly matters. Because true wealth isn't about how much you earn. It's about how wisely you use what you have. Now, if you want to learn how to achieve financial success, then watch this video next. If you made it to this point in the video, please please like and subscribe to the channel to see more content like this. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.